we see very good first steps announced yesterday from Juul. That has been a little bit at the center of the discussion.
Yes,
but it's not the only e-vapor company, obviously. But it's a first very good step, and I think that was the right decision from the board of directors. And I think Altria, also with the experience they have from a very regulated category, have played a role, and they have a role to play going forward. As I said, we need to focus now on getting the products through the process of the FDA, because there is a lot of emotion and a lot of overreaction sometimes, and address the youth use of nicotine. And that requires quite a lot of action, not only strict regulation of flavors, but requires age limits, access control of the retail, technology to do that, technology in the devices, and education, because we told the children don't smoke.
Right. You know,
now
I want to stop you there
nicotine.
if I can, just because my colleagues at the New York Stock Exchange, Jim Cramer, has a question for you as well. Jim?
Yeah, Andre, I have to disagree with you that you think that both companies have a good future. Altria is clearly a wasting asset. It wouldn't be at 8%. The only thing that Altria had was a renegade company called Juul. You know why I call it renegade? Because you chose to go through the FDA in a very rigorous process for IQOS. Would you have advised Juul to be able to take the strategy they did? Or would you think that it would have been better had they gone through the FDA rather than try to fool a lot of people? Oh, I'm sorry. Rather than convince a lot of people over 21, oh, I'm sorry, they used a lot of underage people. They didn't expect that. What I'm saying to you, sir, is IQOS did it the right way. Did you really expect that Juul would do the back door? And do you think that was right?
Well, I think Juul and any other e-vapor product have to go through the FDA process. That's something we always advocated, not only in the US, but worldwide. We think a nicotine product must be regulated. And I think the FDA has the best process in the world, and I encourage governments everywhere else to adopt similar processes, because that creates certainty for the consumers, eliminates the confusion, and a level play field. Now, we are in the process, as we know in the US, as of May next year, everybody has to submit PMTA. These things take time and a lot of investment to do, but I think the companies can do it, they have to do it, and then I think the whole thing would be better addressed, because pre-market the products will be reviewed, and then post-market they will be very strictly followed by the FDA. And I think under this scenario, we will have a much better industry, and the best players and best brands will prevail. But I encourage everybody to go there as fast as possible.
Well, then shouldn't Juul just pull its product, just suspend it everywhere in this country, and maybe even the world, until we get the data that we need? Why shouldn't Juul just say, you know what, full stop, let's do this? Wouldn't that be the right thing? And you know, I got kids. I sure wish they'd do that.
Well, as I said, product is one thing, and I think we need strict regulation of flavors. If I'm not mistaken, Juul was the only company that has removed flavors from retail trade. Now, at the end of the day, I see also states regulating these products and taking them out of the market. We have to be careful here not to have an over-exaggerated reaction, because we need to focus on kids not putting their hands on these products, but also take into consideration there are millions of Americans today that use e-vapor products. And, you know, be careful that what is going to happen to these people if we have a blanket elimination or ban of the product. So I think we need some moderation here, and I'm longer-term thinking. But I think once the FDA process has finished, things will become calmer and much more clear.
Well, what does that mean for the U.S. market for the time being? And I mentioned that Imperial Brands this morning slashes its revenue growth expectations because of next-generation products in the U.S., namely vaping, for example, deteriorated considerably over the last month or so, given the concern. Is that your expectation? Is the market for new and replacement tobacco products going to be sort of in flux, if not doing particularly well for some time?
Well, I think if companies do things right, and I think we did the right thing, we developed these products We put them through a very rigorous scientific assessment internally, preclinical and clinical. Then we submit it to the regulatory authorities, including the FDA, so consumers get the assurance that at least they can trust the product and what we communicate as a manufacturer is truthful and not misleading.
Right, and that's the IQOS product. We should make it clear, the heat-not-burn tobacco product that you're rolling out around the world, you're partnered with Altria here in the U.S.
Which is not any vapor product.
And it's not vaping.
But we should not be conflating vaping in general. I think when products will go through the FDA process and do the right assessment, we will also see that vapor products are better than cigarettes and more appropriate for public health.
You believe that they will be
But
more...
they have to go through the process.
But you believe they will be better for health than tobacco?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because they have much more toxicity and exposure to chemicals, vastly lower than cigarettes. And heated tobacco products have the same. But the thing is, they have to go through the process. So once this is done, I think the category will recover, but with the right restrictions, the right limitations, the right access control, so we don't have, kids using nicotine products.
Right.
And then adults have options to switch, and I think this category is the future. And I think we are very well positioned to succeed in the category because we're the leader in this category.
And do you believe, you mentioned earlier your goal is to ultimately replace tobacco.
Absolutely.
Is that going to be hindered in part because of the concern now about vaping and perhaps even simply because people are concerned about these replacement products overall? Are they just going to stay with tobacco longer?
Look, I think some of the comments made are confusing people who smoke today because sometimes they don't know if these products are worse than cigarettes. 50% of Americans still believe that e-vapor products are worse than cigarettes. And I think that's wrong.
No, but we've got people dying from vaping. It's kind of scary.
Okay. First of all, it is deeply concerning that people die irrespective of the reason. Now, from what I understand, the FDA and the CDC are investigating the health reasons for that. But my understanding is this is not concerning traditional e-vaping products that contain nicotine.
Right.
Concerns other substances.
Yes.
So again,
Cannabis.
we should be careful not to create confusion amongst the millions of people that use vapor products, because this is not traditional e-vaping products with nicotine. And actually, these products existed in the market for so many years when we never had an issue. So I think we have to let the authorities conduct their investigation, but the recommendations they issue make sense. Don't buy products that are not legitimate manufacturers. Don't buy products from the black markets, because that's where we have an issue.
Before we end, let's get back to the deal itself. You're not talking with Altria any longer about this merger of equals as it was described. Do you believe at some point you could re-enter those talks when the conditions are clearer in terms of the products that you're talking about?
Well, the talks have ended. And for the foreseeable future, we'll focus on all other things we do together. And there are many ways to continue our collaboration. I think coming out of these discussions, we're better aligned on many things.
Because you do? Why are you better aligned on many things?
Because we, spending time much more closely, you align on many other things. Right. So it's a win-win for both companies. And I think we have enough ability, even without the merger, to further both portfolios of companies and create shareholder value for both companies. I think that's still a very good collaboration.
All right. Well, we look forward to checking in with you along the way and appreciate your taking some time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Andre Calantzopoulos, the CEO of Philip Morris International.